Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all in the first online refresher course in the chemistry hosted by Department of Chemistry, Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. On behalf of Dr. Jagdish Joshi, Professor Director, UGC HRDC, and Dr. Dilip Vasawa, Assistant Professor, Refresher Course Coordinator, Department of Chemistry, Gujarat University.
I, Dr. Arpita Desai, thank UGC MMTTC of Gujarat University for giving me an opportunity to connect with you and deliver my session on Introduction to Supramolecular Chemistry. I thank Professor Dr. Jagdish Joshi, Professor and Director of UGC MMTTC. I thank Dr. Dilip Vasawa, Course Coordinator of Gujarat University, for giving me an opportunity to connect with you. MMTTC of Gujarat University is ranked as 15 in India and number 1 in Gujarat. It is pioneer and created by history by organizing the first of its kind online refresher course in India in year 2018-19. About 2,500 participants have attended it, and today I'm given an opportunity to deliver my lecture on supramolecular chemistry. So let's begin that. Supramolecular chemistry is considered as chemistry of non-covalent interactions. It's a chemistry of molecular assembly and of intermolecular bond. In 1987, Jean Marie Lehn, Donald J. Krem, and Charles G. Pedersen got the Nobel Prize for their work in this area. The actual definition of supramolecular chemistry is chemistry beyond the molecule, bearing on the organized entities of higher complexity that result from association of two or more chemical species held together by non-covalent interactions. Means two or more molecules must be there, at least two are required, and they should be attached with each other by non-covalent interactions. This is a pictorial diagram telling that how molecular precursors react with each other to form a covalent molecule. And in supramolecular chemistry, a covalently bonded molecule, which can be considered as host or receptor, is already there. And there is another molecule which is smaller in size, most probably, and having the divergent binding site. So it can be considered as a guest or a substrate, which binds with its host or receptor and form a supramolecular complex. Let us see the history of supramolecular chemistry. Paul Eldredge recognized that molecules do not act if they do not bind, and he was the first to introduce a concept of receptor. In 1894, Emil Fischer gave lock and key model, which gave the idea of molecular recognition. At last, the idea of coordination was introduced by Alfred Werner, and lot of coordination complexes have been synthesized. Supramolecular entities are considered thermodynamically less stable, kinetically more labile, and dynamically more flexible than the covalent molecules. This is the pictorial diagram of how supramolecular compounds can lead to the supramolecular devices. So it is said that the ABCD components react with each other to form a covalently bonded receptor molecule, which we can also call it as a host molecule, and it reacts with its substrate by non-covalent interaction to form a supermolecule. Now, in order for any molecule to be recognized as supermolecule, it should have three characteristics: recognition, transformation, and translocation. When we add functional components to it, a supermolecule can be converted into a supramolecular device, means it can now give an application. Supramolecular chemistry deals with binding of substrate to receptor, where receptor is generally a bigger molecule, which is capable of binding the smaller molecule. The substrate is usually a smaller molecule whose binding is being sought. What is recognition? Recognition is a selective binding of a specific substrate to its receptor, yielding a supermolecule. Transformation. So what is transformation? It is the another key characteristic of supermolecules. So if a receptor bears reactive functionalities, it may affect a chemical transformation on the bound substrate, thus behaving as a supramolecular reagent or a catalyst. The third property which supermolecule needs is translocation. So a lipophilic membrane soluble receptor may act as a carrier for a given substrate. So it can just smuggle the substrate by encapsulating within it, and it can go through the membrane. So such type of encapsulation and taking to from one place to the other is known as translocation. Supramolecular chemistry is divided into two broad classes. One is supermolecules. So they are well-defined, discrete oligomolecular species that result from the intermolecular association of few components based on the principle of molecular recognition. Means here the number of components are fixed. In case of supramolecular assemblies, they are polymolecular entities that results from spontaneous association of large, undefined number of components into a specific phase having more or less well-defined microscopic organization characteristic depending on its nature. Means here the number of molecules are not fixed, their organization and characteristics are well defined. Now, there is a well-known word, a host-guest chemistry in supramolecular chemistry. The host it is defined as the molecular entity possessing conversion binding site. We also recognize it as a receptor. For example, Lewis basic donor atoms, hydrogen bond donor atoms can be there on the host molecule. Commonly, the host is a large molecule or aggregate such as macrocyclic compound possessing a central hole or a cavity of definite size. Guest it is defined as the molecular entity possessing divergent binding sites, means a spherical Lewis acidic metal cation or hydrogen bond acceptor halide ion. Basically, the host gets encapsulated into the who guest gets encapsulated into the host molecule. Commonly, the guest may be a cation, anion, or neutral molecule such as hormone, drug, pheromone, or neurotransmitter. There are certain interactions which are considered as supramolecular interactions. First of its kind is ion-ion interaction. For example, it's a tris died as a bicyclooctane host and a gas that is FeCN6. That is a ferricyanide molecule. Now, this host binds with this guest by ion-ion interaction. The host possesses cationic site and the guest is the anionic in nature. The bond energy is 100 to 350 kilojoule per mole. Then there is an ion dipole interactions. So the bond energy here is little less, that is 50 to 200 kilojoule per mole. The binding of potassium ion in 18 crown 6 is the very well-known example of crown ether, that is a supermolecule. The ruthenium, when binds with the bipyridyl system, is also a type of ion dipole interactions. So basically, a dipole is there on the host molecule, that is either a crown ether or a bipyridyl moiety, and the guest is the cationic in nature. So this is an ion dipole interactions. We can also have dipole-dipole interactions. So host and guest both have dipole. The hydrogen bonding considered as a key interactions. It is a special type of dipole-dipole interactions in which a hydrogen atom attached to the electronegative atom is attracted to the neighboring dipole on an adjacent molecule or a functional group. It is known as master key interaction in supramolecular chemistry. Hydrogen bonds are present in many supramolecular host gate systems like DNA, double helix, or enzyme action on different substrates in the body. You can see the hydrogen bonding present between this DNA backbone. Then there are also weaker hydrogen bonds. So what are weaker hydrogen bonds? When hydrogen is not directly attached to the heteroatom, but it is attached to a carbon, which is then attached to the electron withdrawing group, then such hydrogen bonding is known as weaker hydrogen bonding. And that is also many a times observed in supramolecular chemistry. Here is an example of nitromethane encapsulated into the bipyridyl crown ether. We also have cation pi interaction. The well-known example is ferrocene, a sandwich molecule where olefinic compounds and aromatic hydrocarbons form complexes with transition metal ions such as Fe2+, that is ferrous ion, and platinum 2+ due to cation pi interactions. When alkali or alkaline earth metal ions gets encapsulated in the aromatic cavity of supramolecular host or form complexes with carbon-carbon double bond, the interaction involved is much more of the non-covalent or weak in nature. Then there is a pi-pi stacking. When you have aromatic ring or naphthalene, anthracene, etc. in the host as well as guest, we can have pi-pi stacking. It is of two kinds, edge-to-face pi-pi stacking and face-to-face pi-pi stacking. Then we have hydrophobic effect. It is an exclusion from polar solvents like water, alcohol, etc. In supramolecular chemistry, the hosts like cyclodextrin, cyclophane, etc. are soluble in polar solvent due to their interior is hydrophobic. When organic gas molecules are added to the aqueous solutions, water molecules from the cavity are thrown out and organic molecules are stabilized in the hydrophobic cavity of this host molecules. So basically, water molecule doesn't want to sit inside the cavity of cyclodextrin or cyclophanes because the cavity inside is hydrophobic. From outside, it is hydrophilic, so it is water soluble. And guest molecules can easily penetrate into the cavity because the cavity is hydrophobic. Guest is also hydrophobic, so it repels water from the cavity and it sits inside the cavity. So hydrophobic effect is also one of the very well-known interaction present in the supermolecules. Then there are van der Waals forces, para-tetrabutyl calyxporine or any calyxarine actually encapsulate the organic molecule like toluene due to these interactions. This interaction decreases with increase in the distance rapidly. We can classify the supramolecular interactions into two categories. One is summative interaction and another is the multiplicative interactions. In summative interactions, the small amount of stabilization energy gained by any one interaction is added to all other small stabilizations from other interactions, result in significant binding energy, which give enough stability to the complex. Means here it is like all small interactions are added and a total sum is the product of all addition of such interactions. While in case of multiplicative interactions, here interactions of the overall host-guest complex is synergistically greater than sum of individual interactions of their binding sites. Such extra stabilization has its basis in the Killight and macrocyclic effect. So basically, when small interactions are added, it's not the actual arithmetic sum of this addition, but it is much more than that. What is Killight and macrocyclic effect? Killight effect, we all know that ethylene diamine, when reacts with metal ion like nickel, it stabilizes the molecule due to Killight effect. It is said that there are 6 ammonia units earlier present when nickel is dissolved in liquor ammonia. But when we add ethylene diamine, it replaces this 6 ammonia and form a stable Killight molecule. Now, if we calculate entropy on left side and right side, the total number of molecules on left are total 4, but on right they are 7. So entropy is positive, and when we say that when there is a delta S is positive, the reaction is feasible. So that's how the chelate is stabilized. In case of macrocyclic effect, macrocyclic ligands are more stable than the corresponding alicyclic analogs. This is due to presence of number of binding sites at the proper positions on ligands to chelate their guest. Such components are stabilized additionally by macrocyclic effect. During the synthesis of macrocycle, the enthalpic penalty associated with bringing the donor atom lone pair into close proximity with one another has been already paid in advance while synthesis of the macrocycle. So the lone pairs are already adjusted in such a way that they are converging. The macrocyclic hosts such as Corand are up to a factor of 10 to the power 4 times more stable than their acyclic analogous Podand with same type of binding site. In case of alicyclic molecules, more number of host solvent bonds are required to be broken because the coordinating species are many, so they are all encapsulated with solvent. So more number of solvent and host bonds are need to be broken to achieve a stable host-guest complex compared to the cyclic host. As cyclic nature of the host makes minimum interaction with the bulk solvent. So as its convergent nature, as the cavity is predefined, the only solvent molecules which are there in the cavity needs to be taken out. So this provides the enthalpic stabilization. Macrocyclic host loses less degree of freedom when gets complexed within the entropically favored process. This is the classification of supramolecular structures. They are classified as clathrates and cavities. The clathrates are the molecules with extramolecular cavity. Means many molecules come together and they form a crystal. While making a crystal, we know that there are gaps in the crystal where we can add dopants. We call it in supramolecular chemistry this dopants as a guest, means something which can go and take place into these gaps created when molecules stack on each other to form a crystal. Clathrates are indeed present in solid state. They are not present in a liquid state. But cavitates have already predefined cavity. And there the gas comes and sit within. So chorate, cryptate, calixarine, cyclodextrin, carciplexis, hemicarciplexis, and many more are considered to be cavitates. They have predefined cavity and they are also present in liquid state. We have already discussed this that cathets it's a kind of inclusion complex in which two or more components are associated without ordinary chemical union, but through complete enclosure of one set of molecule in suitable structure formed by other. In cavitates, it is a kind of inclusion complex in which one or more guest molecules are completely encapsulated within the cavity of the host molecule. So these are few examples of cavitates. The one is chorate, where we have a 15 crown 5, where sodium ion is encapsulated within. The interaction is ion-dipole interaction. We have cryptate, a a bicyclic molecule or a polycyclic molecule is considered as cryptan, and with its guest, it is known as cryptate. So this is an example of cryptate. It is 2,2,2 cryptan encapsulating potassium ion again by and dipole interaction. We have catenin and rotaxane. So we will see in next sessions that the interlocked molecules are considered as catenin, and when there is an axial, a stoppers, and a macrocycle which is held inside is known as rotaxane, and the interaction is a charge transfer interaction. Then we have cyclodextrins. Cyclodextrin is also one kind of host molecule which encapsulates its guests by hydrophobic interaction. Guests can be any organic molecule like drugs, pheromones, etc. Calixarine is uh, Calixarine is made up of the phenol derivatives, and this is the example of para-tetrabutyl calixporerine. It encapsulates organic molecules by van der Waals interactions. And these are carciplexes and hemicarciplexes, where the resorcarines and pyrogalerines are connected by bridges, and a carciplexis or a hemicarciplexis is made. The Graham and the co-workers got Nobel Prize for formation of carciplexes and hemicarciplexes. There also the interaction is van der Waals interactions. Let us see what is known as molecular recognition. It is the information involved in the binding and selection of substrate or substrates by a given receptor molecule. Only binding is not a recognition. Binding can be anywhere there, but a selective binding with a particular purpose is recognition. Recognition is due to geometrical and interactional complementarity between two or more associating entities, for example, substrate and receptor, or we can say host and guest. Basically, out of many guests, when a host molecule select one and gets and binds within its cavity, then that is called as recognition. The recognition depends on four factors: steric complementarity. The best fit between receptor rho and substrate sigma is steric complementarity. For example, presence of correct convex and concave domain on appropriate position on receptor and substrate. The next is interactional complementarity. It means presence of complementary binding sites on rho and sigma, that is receptor and substrate, or you can also call it as host and guest. The binding site includes positive, negative charges, charge dipole, ion, dipole, hydrogen bond donor, etc. in correct position on rho and sigma. There should be a large contact area and the overall bindings should be strong enough. A balance between rigidity and flexibility is of particular importance for high molecular recognition between rho and sigma. Rigid lock and key type receptors are highly stable and show high recognition. Flexible receptors that bind their substrates by an induced fit process show high selectivity but have lower stability, as energy is lost in making conformational changes. Process of exchange and regulation require built-in flexibility so that the receptor may adapt and respond to changes. Nature uses all flexible receptors, because when we need an application, we need a flexible receptor. Although thermodynamically most stable receptor substrate complex will have less binding energy, they are thermodynamically more stable, but flexibility is also required, and nature has everything made quite flexible, and that's how it's working wonderfully. Receptors are either monotopic or polytopic. Monotopic receptor possesses a single receptor unit and binds a single substrate. Polytopic receptors contains two or more discrete binding subunits and bind more than one substrate. This is all about recognition, molecular recognition. Now, chiral recognition is one of the a key feature of molecular recognition. Here, generally a host or a guest, or sometimes both, are chiral. Krebs group in 1980 reported a new class of macrocyclic chiral compound named chiral crown ether in enantiomerically pure form, that is the RR. Where here what we can see is the RR host. It does enantioselective recognition of chiral ammonium salts. It is useful in resolution of many drug molecules and thus have potential application in pharmaceutical industry. Generally, it is observed that this RR host binds with deconfiguration of amino acids and their esters much more strongly than the L guest. Means it encapsulates D amino acid, not the L amino acid. And that's how amino acids, which are difficult to resolve otherwise, can easily be resolved by using such type of supramolecular host. This host contains axial chirality due to restricted rotation about the carbon-carbon single bond joining the two naphthalene subunit. Substitution on ring makes the molecule more rigid. So substitutions favors the chiral recognition. As the RR receptor preferentially binds salts of D amino acids like phenylglycine and their esters, the host gate complexes can be extracted by chloroform from water. The D isomer selectively binds to the host, having better fit and gets preferentially extracted. So you need to dissolve this supramolecular host, which is chiral, into water. It is water soluble, and then you put amino acids and the preferred amino acid, that is the D amino acids, are preferentially encapsulated in the aqueous solution. This is the another example of chiral recognition. These are lariat ethers. Lariat ethers are one where you have a you have a corant, a macrocycle, and there is an long arm which is associated with it. So the host molecule is the lariat ether and guest molecule is the ammonia zwitterion of phenylalanine. So phenylalanine can bind into this lariat ether by multiple interactions where phenyl ring forms the pi-pi stacking with naphthalene ring. Ammonium ion is encapsulated into the crown ether, which is a ESA crown ether because one nitrogen is there. And the carboxylate ion, that is two negatively charged oxygen form hydrogen bonding with hydrogen attached to nitrogen of the molecule. This is another example where we have cryptand, where metal ions are also present in this cryptand, and the host can specifically bind to the chiral mandelic acid in its anionic form. So basically there is an cation anion ion interaction, and as a molecule is chiral due to presence of axial chirality, the host is chiral and the guest the racemic from racemic mixture of the guest, one of the isomer can be preferentially extracted. So that's how the resolution is favored. After looking at the chiral recognition, let us see what is called as template. Template effect is also very important in synthesis of supermolecules. The chemical species which organizes an assembly of atom with respect to one or more geometric loci in order to achieve a particular linking of atom is known as template. In simplest word, a template may be organic molecule, metal cation or anion, which can orient the starting material around it, make them physically react with each other, because the template brings them into close proximity to each other, and it favors the formation of a particular entity which is otherwise not possible. Cesium is very effective as a template, and the formation of cyclic products in good yield is called as cesium effect. This is an example where we have diol and dihalide. If we put any base like triethylamine, it is quite possible that we will get polymer or number of oligomers by random reaction between alcohol and a chlorine. It can be an SN2 type of reaction, and both are bifunctional groups, so they can easily give a polymer molecule. But when potassium is there in form of KOH, because we need alkali to initiate this reaction. Alkali can abstract the proton from alcohol, and alkoxide ion can attack on the carbon which is attached to chlorine, and chlorine being a good leaving group, it can leave. But then if this alkali is KOH, it efficiently orients this dichloride and a diol around it. This is the way it can orient it, and the removal of water molecule and KCl is facilitated. Not only the removal is facilitated, it is done in such a way that one molecule of dihalide reacts with one molecule of diol to form what is called as 18 crown 6. So this is the effect of a template, that potassium ion here act as a template. Rather than generating a polymeric unit, it specifically gives us a macrocyclic compound, that is a crown ether. Template gets trapped into the cavity of synthesized holes. That is the limitation of template effect. For potassium, it reacts with crown ether by ion dipole interaction, so it can easily be removed also. So for synthesis of 18 crown 6, potassium can easily be used. But when we use transition metal ions like copper or maybe silver type of ions as a template, it is difficult to remove them from the cavity, and because of that, we many a times feel the lack of application of such synthesized host. It is also seen that some so-called template assisted synthesis proceed similarly even in absence of a template. For example, porphyrin and macrocycle formed by condensation between acetone and ethylene diamine. If we don't find a suitable template, because finding out a suitable template is also challenging. Always you don't get a particular template to synthesize any molecule. So if we don't find a template, the another approach for synthesizing supermolecule is high dilution synthesis. Here simply we take lot of solvent and we dilute our reaction. Lot of solvent means around 500 milligram of the starting material dissolved in 5 liter of the solvent. That is considered as the minimum high dilution required. And you can even go further. What is benefit? We take lot of solvent in the round bottom flask. Both the starting materials are dissolved into the, again, a solvent that is also high in concentration. They are kept in addition funnels, and drop wise they are added to the reaction mixture. So at a given time, the excess of solvent is there, few drops of starting materials are added. So you can imagine the amount of dilution we have gone for, and the one interaction between NH2 and Cl. Here in this case we have taken to a molecule which have acid halide, and we are trying to condense it to get the amide. So one reaction between the amino group and this acid halide take place, it forms such an oligomeric species. But that is anyway we want it. But then next time we don't want this species to react with another molecule of diamine or acid halide. We want it to self-condense. And cyclized to give us the product, which can be further reduced to form the dye as a crown ether. But if we don't put high dilution, it is quite possible that in concentrated state, it can react with another molecule and form a polymer. So by using lot of solvent, what we do is we reduce the concentration in such a way that once one reaction take place, the another functionality doesn't get the next molecule to react with. So it has to self-condense. Although here yields are little less as compared to template effect, but if we efficiently carry out the reactions by monitoring the addition rates and keeping lot of solvent, we can actually get much better yields, maybe more than 90-95% as well. Here it is statistically it is said that if rate of cyclization of reactant AB is we can say it is RC, then RC is equals to Kc into the concentration of AB. AB is this product, this one. So this is Kc into concentration of starting material, that is AB. If it is compared with the rate of polymerization, that is Rp is equals to Kp into AB square, because AB needs to react with another AB molecule. So in order to make a polymer. So here it will be AB square. If we take a ratio RC by Rp, it is Kc into concentration of AB divided by Kp into AB square. So it is Kc by Kp into concentration of AB. This itself suggests that if we increase the concentration of AB, then RC by Rp ratio will be affected, means more there will be a polymerization, less there will be a cyclization. But if as concentration of AB is in denominator, if we decrease the concentration of AB, then automatically the RC will be higher. So RC by Rp ratio will be higher. So means that rate of cyclization will be always higher than rate of polymerization. This is the example where same molecular synthesis is done by high dilution method and template assisted synthesis. In both the cases, the molecule was successfully formed. It is a cryptand molecule. And here the template would be like lanthanide metal ions and so on. Let's continue our session on supramolecular chemistry further. So now here we will see the supermolecules one after the other in detail. We will start with Corand. Corand are monocyclic molecules. It were invented in 1987 by Pedersen. He got Nobel Prize for this. He has synthesized dibenzo 18-crown-6. He accidentally, when he was trying to form the diol. The 18-crown-6 can be written as 18 in the bracket crown dash 6. The actual nomenclature similar to the IUPAC nomenclature what we have in the case of covalent molecule, here also it is there, and it has to be written like 18. Then a sign of less than is to be kept. Then number of heteroatoms, here oxygen are 6. So 6 is kept in subscript. Then 2 are the bridging units. So 2, 6, Corand dash 6. And then this bracket is over by making the sign of greater than. So that's how the nomenclature of 18-crown-6 is to be written. Pedersen described total 6 syntheses for 6 type of synthesis for Corands. So there is a diol and a dihalide. When we add NaOH, it makes the alkoxide ion, and we can have the SN2 type of synthesis, and we can get a Corand. It can be done in 2 steps as well by 2 different type of dihalide. Means one dichloride can be taken, and one equivalent of NaOH we need to put, and we can get this another diol, and then it can react with another molecule of dihalide which is different from the earlier dihalide which is taken, and it can give us the unsymmetric crown ether. or a corand. Then we can have two molecules of dihalide and two molecules of diol, and it can give us the symmetric crown ether. The in same starting material, if you have alcohol and halide, then it can self-condense to give you a crown ether. It is also be done with potassium tertiary butoxide, where self-condensation take place to form a crown ether or a corand. And lastly, we have the benzo crown ether. And when we take a hydrogen, we pass hydrogen in presence of ruthenium dioxide, the aromatic ring can be reduced and we can get such five types of crown ethers possible, where we have cis, syn, cis, the cis, anti-cis, then trans, anti-trans, and cis, anti-trans, and this is called as cis-trans type of molecules. The another type of supermolecules are cryptans. The name cryptan for bicyclic host came because of their ability to spherically surround or entop a metal ion in a crypt. From a Greek word, crypt means hidden. So from that the cryptan word came. There is one extra limb in the corand which generates the cryptan. The 222 cryptand is sold commercially under the trade name Cryptofix. The binding of K plus by 222 cryptand in methanol is 10 to the power 4 times stronger than its crown ether analog 18 crown 6. So this is diaza 18 crown 6. We can take acid halide, and under high dilution conditions, it can react and form a third limb on this diazide crown 6, and then we can we can add reducing agent like diborane and water, so that it can reduce the carbonyl to methylene group, and we can get 222 cryptand. Here, depending upon the number of oxygen atoms and ethylene units, it can be considered as 212 cryptand or 222 cryptand or so on. The another type of synthesis of cryptand can also be performed, where we can take diamine and a ditosylate at the end. So with both are having a polyethers. In one case, amino groups are there at the end. In other case, the tosylate is there. We know that similar to the halide, tosylates are also good living group. So when we take potassium carbonate in acetonitrile, the lone pair of nitrogen attacks on carbon and tosylate leaves, and we get the synthesis of cryptand. Again, both this M and N, M we have kept on diamine linker, and N we have considered for the number of this ethylene units in ditosylate linker. So we, depending on the choice of M and N, we get 111 cryptand or 122 cryptand or 222 cryptand. The best yield here was found for 1222 cryptand. Then we can also take a rather than, it's not required that we always take the aliphatic polyether chain. We can also take this molecule where we have aromatic ring, and we react with again a tosylate, two equivalent of tosylate in potassium carbonate acetonitrile, and with the different type of cryptand we can achieve. So basically we can tailor-made the cryptand molecules. We can choose the starting material depending upon the final product which we wish. We can also have cryptand by making imine bonds. This trisamine can react with dialdehyde or even ketone can be used. So dialdehyde or diketone molecule is used, and it's reacted with trisamine to form this 6 imine bonds at a time. The spacers can be varied, like we can have pyrrole dialdehyde, or we can have terephthalaldehyde, we can have isothalaldehyde, we can have pyridine dialdehyde, or maybe we can use cresol dialdehyde, furan dialdehyde, or thiophene dialdehyde. These are all known examples. Means scientists have already made such cryptans and they are well characterized and reported. This is the graph which shows the recognition behavior of cryptand. So on x-axis we have lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and this is the log K value. That is, K is the binding constant. So this is the binding energy, and we can see that the 211 cryptand, which we have shown with this triangle shape. So 211 cryptand has highest binding constant for lithium. Means it selectively binds lithium over sodium. For sodium, the log K value is 6. For potassium, it drops drastically to 2. And for rubidium and cesium, only 1. Means it will not bind rubidium, cesium, or potassium. It can bind sodium to some extent, but if lithium is present, it can selectively bind lithium among all because it has the highest binding constant. When we go for 211 cryptand, this it has value of log K value of 4 for lithium, then it increases for sodium, the highest is for sodium, then for potassium, then for rubidium, and then cesium. For this 222 cryptand, the spherical shaped dots are kept. So for lithium, it is 2, log K value is 2. For sodium, log K value is 7. And it drastically increases for potassium by log K value of 10. Means it selectively binds potassium ion in the cavity. And again, it drops for rubidium and then cesium. So it depends upon size of molecule. As the size increases, of the cryptand, it starts selecting the cation with higher diameter. When we go for 322 cryptand, it is very less for lithium, even less for sodium. The binding constant is little high for potassium, and then it doesn't show any selectivity for potassium, rubidium, cesium. Almost the selectivity is similar in nature. Of course, for cesium, it is little bit higher than rubidium or potassium. So that's what we can see, that binding constant for 222 cryptand is at maximum for potassium salt in methanol. For 211 cryptand, it is selective for sodium, and for 211 cryptand is selective for lithium. For 222 cryptand, the potassium is to sodium selectivity is about 10 to the power 3, where for 18 crown 6, the same selectivity is for 10 to the power 2. Means when we have put the extra link by making 222 cryptand, rather the compared to its monocyclic crown ether analog, the 10 times selectivity is higher. 211 cryptand is ineffective at binding any divalent metal ion from magnesium to barium. Means it is only binding alkali metal ion. It doesn't work for alkaline metal ion. Increasing the cavity size to 211 cryptand results in peak selectivity at strontium. However, this log K value 7.35 is only marginally larger than that of calcium or barium. So it also binds calcium, it also binds barium and strontium. 222 cryptand selectively recognize barium. The log K value is 9.5 among all alkaline earth metal ions. Then we can also see that is a change possible when we substitute oxygen with nitrogen. Means if we change the heteroatom in the cryptand, it starts changing its binding behavior. So here we can see that we have substituted one oxygen by N-methyl group. Then in case of B, we have substituted 2 oxygens by 2 N-methyl groups. And then we have substituted 4. And in this case, we have only kept 2 N-methyl groups, but now the size of the cryptand is reduced because we wanted to see that how size matter, whether size matter or whether the functionality matters. Because in recognition, we say that both things are important. Steric interaction is also important and interactional functionality is also important. So here the steric factor is checked, and in other case, the interactional factors are checked, that how the change in binding site from oxygen to nitrogen changes its behavior. So the result was the incorporation of 2 N-methyl groups into 222 cryptand gives the macrocycle B having binding constant for, for silver is 11.5. The corresponding binding constant for potassium is only 2.7, while for tellurium it has 5.5. Means now the rather than binding potassium, it has shifted its tendency by replacement of N-methyl group for oxygen atom, the recognition changes and it preferentially binds silver over potassium. A series A to C shows a smooth change in binding constant as oxygen atoms are sequentially replaced by nitrogen atoms. This is because potassium binds purely in ionic fashion, while silver-nitrogen interaction contains significant covalent character as well. So as we replaces oxygen by nitrogen, the preference goes more towards the silver. Krypton C and D both show similar affinity for silver, which shows close size complementarity between D and silver. Means in again we'll go to this slide. So here you can see that there is no much difference between the selectivity for silver between C and D. Here there are four nitrogens and here there are total here there are total six nitrogens and here there are only four nitrogens. Still, silver is bound with equivalent binding constant because size also matters. So this example reveals that the size of the cavity as well as the functionality which are kept on the cavity of the krypton both are important. The next molecule is pH dependent is the Saucer-Ball molecule. Here we can see a pH dependent recognition of cation and anions. So this neutral host binds the ammonium ion in its diprotonated state, means when we protonate these two nitrogens. By lowering the pH, it recognizes water. And when we protonate all the four nitrogen, it starts recognizing chloride. Means when there is only a ion dipole interaction possible, it recognizes ammonium ion. When these two are protonated, now there is a possibility of formation of hydrogen bonding. So it can recognize neutral molecule like water. And when all four are protonated, it can now bind the chloride by ion-ion interaction. The protonated saucer ball has an extremely high affinity for chloride over bromide due to mismatch of NH-Br hydrogen bond distance and the cavity dimension. So in case of a protonated molecule, it binds the chloride over bromide. But rather than making the protonation, if we replace the molecule with N-methyl analog, means here rather than putting hydrogen, if we substitute with methyl group, the N-methyl analog of this Saucer-Ball molecule selectively binds bromide or iodide over chlorine. Due to the elongation of the molecule, now it is not of the Saucer-Ball shape. It's rather the edges are elongated and the distance increases. So it very well encapsulates the bigger ions like bromide or iodide. It has the kryptons have application in making the ion gun. So you can see that the molecule is attached with this phenyl ring. Their ion can be encapsulated and then you can irradiate it with the photons and the cleavage take place and there is a selective release of ion at a time from many molecules, so it can act as a ion gun. We can also achieve the selective release of ion by putting the ESA functionality into the krypton. We know that when we put this ESA functionality into the molecule, in its transform, where it has such a shape that it cannot encapsulate the ion. But when we photonate it, then this ESA crown converts it into the shape where it has a predefined cavity and the ion can be encapsulated. Once again, when you heat it, the shape disrupts and the ion gets kicked off. And that's how the on and off positions can be done by irradiating it and heating it, and we can selectively get lot of ions at a time from a molecule. Again, an application is in the form of the ion gun. The next supramolecular compound is cyclodextrin, which is very well exploited and probably the best one among all. It is due to its enormous applications in food, cosmetics, pharmaceutical sectors, and generally as slow release and compound delivery agent. They are important as enzyme mimics as well. They bind and entirely non-toxic over a wide dosage range. Industrial application of beta-cyclodextrin is there, and production is done at 1,500 tons per year, and price is few US dollar per kg. Beta-cyclodextrin is also known as cyclomaltoheptose, cycloheptaglucan, and cycloheptaamylose. This is the just a pictorial diagram of cyclodextrin where it has hydrophobic cavity. This is the secondary hydroxyl group, the upper rim which contributes to second hydroxyl groups, and this is the lower rim where primary hydroxyl groups are present. The cyclodextrins are depending upon the number of glycosidic linkages or number of glycosidic units. It has bifurcated in alpha cyclodextrin, beta cyclodextrin, and gamma cyclodextrin. The alpha cyclodextrin and gamma cyclodextrin have high water solubility. Beta cyclodextrin has little bit lower water solubility as compared to other two. The cavity dimensions are different. Methylation of secondary hydroxyl group of beta cyclodextrin increases its solubility. All all cyclodextrins crystallizes from water as water hydrates. How they can be synthesized? The plant photosynthesis produces starch which comprises two glucose polymers. One is amylose, which has 1,4 glycoside linkages, and another is amylopectin, which has 1,4 as well as 1,6 glycoside linkages. The degradation of starch with variety of enzymes in the presence of water give rise to dextrins, which result from hydrolysis of glycosidic linkages. When dextrins are degraded by glycoside transferase enzyme, the primary product of the chain splitting undergoes intramolecular cyclization without involvement of water to give cyclodextrin. Individual cyclodextrin are isolated from the mixture by complexation with nonpolar gas such as toluene, which decreases its solubility. These are binding constant for different organic molecules for alpha cyclodextrin. Industrial applications, around 80 to 90% production of CD is for food industries. Complexation of expensive flavors, oils, and spices such as apple, citrus fruit, cinnamon, garlic, ginger, methanol, spearmint, and thyme by CD drastically reduces the amount that is needed for into the food to achieve the required strength required fragrance or flavor, and protect them from oxidation, photodegradation, thermal decomposition, or loss by sublimation. So basically it encapsulates this active species which are present in different flavors and oils, and it surrounds it in such a way that the environment effect is not there, and they are survived into the interior of the cyclodextrin for longer time. CDs are widely used in pharmaceutical industries as drug delivery systems because it can encapsulate them, and they can deliver to a particular site. Their upper rims as well as lower rim can be preferentially decorated by different groups, different molecules like folic acid or bioteins can be attached so that they are preferentially delivered to the tumor site, and they get the application into the cancer research where folate receptors are overexpressed. The folic acid can drive the cyclodextrin to that particular positions where tumor is there, and it can release the drug over there. So that's how the drug delivery systems are made. CD prevents premature drug metabolism overall, allowing oral rather than intravenous delivery. It also modifies drug solubility and biological transport properties, increasing specificity for the target site, etc. CD may also enhance the solubility of poorly soluble drugs without the need to chemically modify the drug itself. Generally, in pharmaceutical chemistry, when pharmacophore is active, it needs to be further decorated with certain groups so that the molecule can be made water soluble so that we can give them orally. But in doing so, sometimes the efficacy of the molecule is also reduced. So cyclodextrins act as such a delivery agent so that without attaching such type of groups to enhance the solubility, the pharmacophore can itself be encapsulated within the cavity and can deliver to a particular site. So the added toxicity can be reduced. The cyclodextrin complexation is known to relieve the local irritation or induced damage and to mask unpleasant or bitter taste. So it is also useful in making the sugar syrup of certain drugs, especially for pediatric medication, etc. It is also used in chromatographic separation. So rather than putting the other chiral molecules, cyclodextrin itself can be loaded on the chiral matrix, and the HPLC columns can be made so that the chiral recognition can be done by chromatography. Cyclodextrins are good enzyme mimics, and the features that make them good enzyme mimic are their water solubility at physiological pH, reversible non-covalent guest binding with the release of the guest being slower than binding as the enzyme does, well-defined structure and guest binding modes, a wide range of accessible derivatives, because you can make a lot of derivatization on upper as well as lower rim, juxtaposition of hydroxyl groups which may take the active part in catalysis, and hydrophobic cavity for guest binding, a chiral molecular cavity admitting the possibility of enantioselective binding and catalysis. This is an example of cyclodextrin which can act as an esterase mimic. Means it can encapsulate the phenyl acetate molecule into the cavity. The alkoxide ion can attack on a carbonyl group, and then the phenolate ion can be replaced by substitution reaction, and at the end it can leave the acetate ion. So that's how it mimics the hydrolase. Then there is it can also act as a glyoxalase mimic. So it can encapsulate the molecule, and now this time at the primary hydroxyl group is converted into an alkoxide ion, and it can attack on the carbon, and the transformation can take place, and at the end this glyoxal can be replaced. So the work is same as the enzyme which is known as glyoxalase, which transfers the alpha ketoaldehydes to hydroxy acids. So same thing can the cyclodextrin can also do. The next supermolecules are calixarenes. Calixarenes are formed from condensation of parasubstituted phenol with formaldehyde. They are termed as 1111 metacyclophanes. This name was coined by C. David and in 1942, as part of study of Bakelite process, Alois Zinke examined condensation of parasubstituted phenol, particularly paratertiary butyl phenol with formaldehyde. He was able to isolate a crystalline product of empirical formula C11H14O, and because parasubstituted phenol can only react at ortho position, because phenols are generally give orthopara substitution reaction, he postulated a cyclic tetrameric structure. Further evidence for a tetrameric structure came from a rational step-by-step synthesis of paramethyl derivative in 1956 by B.T. Hayes and R.F. Hunter. Their final crystallization step was affected under high dilution condition to give the product in unstated though presumably low yields. So it is this molecule undergoes high dilution in acetic acid, bypassing HCl gauge. It undergoes the cyclization. These are the diastereomers of calyxporerine. So 4 diastereomers are reported. One is partial cone, where this all 3 methyl groups point upward, but one phenolic group point downward. Here, this 2 phenolic group point upward and 2 downward. And in this case, this is 1-3 alternate, means one is upward, one downward, again one upward, one downward. So this is a partial cone structure where 3 points downward. These are 3 methoxy units, and one is pointing upward. So this is a partial cone structure, and calixarenes are host for cation, anion as well as neutral molecule. So this molecule binds lithium and sodium ion into its cavity. Cone isomer exists in polar solvent, which is pre-organized for binding cation in lower rim of calixarene molecule, while in non-polar solvents, generally partial cone structure predominates. And it can also encapsulate the organic molecule. It encapsulates into the cavity, and it looks like this. Calixarenes are efficient phase transfer catalysts. The para-tertiary butyl, calix, and arenes are almost completely insoluble in water, but in alkaline conditions, as the phenol converts into the phenoxides, they have enough solubility to act as a phase transfer catalyst. Cesium is too large to bind the lower rim of calixarene, but sits beautifully within the calixarene cavity, stabilized by cation pi interactions. Usually, selectivity for cesium is this unusual selectivity for cesium is known as cesium effect. So here you can see that lithium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide, potassium, rubidium, cesium, barium hydroxide are chosen, and cation diameters are also reported. The para-tertiary butyl calix and arenes, the calix 4 arenes, 6 arene, and 8 arenes are chosen, and their phase transfer characteristics are reported over here. This is the lower diameter of calix 4 arene 1, 2.446, and 4.8 for calix 8 arene. And these are the transport numbers, where the best transport number is for cesium hydroxide, means it can effectively transport cesium from aqueous solution to the organic phase, and that shows the capability of calixarene as phase transfer catalyst. Then the next is the scientists have beautifully crafted calixarene by making its hybrid with crown ether, and they made the prototype, which is similar to a syringe. So this is host was synthesized, and it reacted with the ion. So it due to ion dipole interaction, this ion is present over here. But the moment it is protonated, this nitrogen gets protonated and ion shift from here to here. Here it binds with ion dipole interaction. So again, when you deprotonate it, it is sucked back over here. So it behaves like a syringe. So once by lowering and increasing the pH value, the syringe can be made functional. So it's a prototype of syringe. It is also used in separation of fullerenes. Fullerenes form inclusion compounds with aromatic macrocycles, and indeed such a para-tertiary butyl calixarenes and para-tertiary butyl calix and arenes may be used in purification of C60 and C70 from complex soot mixture formed by carbonic evaporation of graphite. These assemblies are stabilized by CH pi interactions. So we can take the mixture of C60 and C70, take calixarene, put in toluene solvent. So C60 is preferentially encapsulated. So C70 can be filtered off. And this PPT of calixarene of C60 with its the calixarene inclusion complex is then made soluble in chloroform. Now chloroform take place inside the cavity of calixarene, and C60 is thrown out. So it is again filtered. So by fractional filtration, the C60 and C70 are separated. It is also used in detection of explosive. This is the host, which is at again a hybrid of 1,3-dialternate form of calixarene with crown ether, and here also the pyrene molecules are attached so that they can give fluorescence, and it is exploited for detection of explosives like trinitrotoluene and trinitrobenzene. A fluorescence sensor for TNB, that is trinitrobenzene, and TNT, that is trinitrotoluene, is made from pyrene derivative of amido calix 4 arene 15 crown 5. It gives two emission band at 375 nanometer and 450 nanometer when excited at 343 nanometer. TNB and TNT quenches the fluorescence significantly, while moderate quenching is observed for 126-DNT and 13-DNP. So the detection limit is 1 ppb, which is quite good. It can also do colorimetric detection of TNT and TNB. Chloroform solution of force gives intense bend at 320 to 360 nanometer interval due to pyrene functionality. This dose solution in chloroform appears colorless but turns yellow on addition of TNT and turns reddish orange on addition of TNP. We will end here. I hope that this introductory lecture of supramolecular chemistry was informative. I'll be happy to solve any queries if they are there.